5 weeks. Yo, what's going on? It's someone that's someone, and welcome back to today's report. Today's report is from sleep deprivation off ETHEREUM. When this happened, 2006, the condition, sleep deprivation, gender, female, and her weight, 105 pounds. Alright, so welcome to our first report on sleep deprivation. This has been requested quite a bit, as it has come up before in some reports. It can be common for things like stimulants, maybe psychedelics, or even dissociatives to keep you awake for a long period of time, especially if you're binging and redosing them. You can lose sleep as a side effect, to the point where you can become sleep deprived. Some may not think of this, but the effects from a lack of sleep can be strong in itself. Not only will it cause a big disturbance to your physical state, but your mental state can be altered extremely. It'll depend on the length of time, but you can expect to have a poor mental performance with an irritable, drained mood. Hallucinations can start to pop up, such as hearing some things that aren't there, to seeing full-on embodiments. It can be pretty comparable to delirium, psychosis, or even dementia. Today's author personally compares it to schizophrenia, which this report today is more of an extreme case. Due to certain factors in her life, she was met with strong sleep deprivation, which seems to have brought on insomnia. And in result, it turned her life around completely. Things get progressively worse, and you'll just see. We'll get into sleep deprivation more afterwards, and some of what happens when you undergo it. But I'm sure you'll enjoy this one, so without further ado, let's dive right into this. In the school summer holidays of 2006, my best friend started stealing all my friends from me. I found myself staying up and thinking of ways to win my friends back, but I was still sleeping then. Slowly I became more and more upset until it was the final straw. I had a lot going on. I became depressed, and I just forgot about sleeping. I'd stay up on the computer for hours, not even leaving for food. I'd just drink glasses of water and eat the occasional sandwich if I remembered. After the first 3 days, I started to feel slightly paranoid, but nothing extreme. I just passed it off as the cat shuffling about or something of the sort. But after a week, I started feeling bursts of cold wind on the back of my neck and whispers in my ear. I couldn't make out what any of the voices were saying until 2 weeks with no sleep. That's when I started seeing things. Mutants. They tried to touch me, but I hit them, and they got blood all over my floor. I knew I couldn't sleep then. I was too scared to. The weird thing about the voices is that they were saying things I honestly didn't know. 3 days with no water, food, and sleep. It kills. They said it over and over and over again, and that just scared me more. There was the chance that I perhaps heard it before, no? But after a couple of days, they said other things. They told me what people's names were, people I didn't know, and they were right. They told me what time new TV shows were on, and I don't go anywhere near televisions, and people just don't discuss TV with me. They told me how to treat my sister to make a better relationship, and although I was glad of the help, I was also very scared. With voices all around me, wherever I went, and mutated monsters constantly trying to get near me, the voice also told me they wanted to rape me. I was in such a bad state that at 3 weeks into my experience, I started blacking out. I was developing schizophrenia. I'd do things, say things, and behave in a way that wasn't like me, and not remember any of it. And by now, I was an insomniac. I just couldn't sleep. I tried and tried. I went to bed and closed my eyes, but then I'd wake up, or rather, snap out of whatever I had been in and be in a different room, cowering in the corner while some huge moon towered over me. At 4.5 weeks in, there were gnarly trees growing in my bedroom. I always had a vivid imagination, and angels and demons were banging and scraping at my window. There were cloaked figures in my garden, and a tall man with no facial features, such as eyes and so on, standing behind my curtain. I could only ever see a silhouette against my window. I could hear strange howling noises, not of wolves or foxes though. I don't know what they were. They just looked like bloody heaps, and they lived under the bath. I started talking to my cat, and he talked back. It was amazing. He became my best friend. At the beginning of the 5th week, I snapped out of my other self to find myself about to jump out of the window. That's when I forced the mutants to stay out of my room. I beat the man behind my curtain to death, and I just slept. I forced myself to sleep. It took a few days of just lying there in my bed, but finally, I fell asleep. I woke up 4 hours later. but I felt so much better. The schizophrenia didn't leave, and the mutants are still there, and I still have that voice, but the man behind my curtain vanished. The creatures under the bath are only sometimes there now. Everything is much calmer, and I feel a lot happier. I sleep around 2 to 3 hours a night, and that's all I need to keep me going for 24 hours without feeling tired at all. I find I can do it a lot more in my day now. However, I am nocturnal. I've been receiving psychiatric help since early September, but it hasn't been any help. It just takes a while for things to settle down is all, but after that, things have been fine for me. Alright, like I said before, quite an extreme example, but it really does capture what can happen when you just aren't getting adequate sleep. But let's get into sleep deprivation, insomnia, the causes and whatnot, and what can happen to the body and mind in such a state. So, what is sleep deprivation exactly? Well, it is pretty straightforward in the name itself. It's when you're deprived of sleep. But this differs from insomnia, as it isn't necessarily a disorder. We can see here with this report that the starting cause seemed to be the stress going on in her life. Which, another common example of stress people lose sleep over is something like school or a job. Having a baby is another you may not think of, or having a mental illness, like schizophrenia or being bipolar. There's also a lot of life conditions that could be impacting your quality of sleep as well. It can also pop up when you're getting sleep, but not enough of it. Say you only sleep for like 4 or 5 hours every night. On average, an adult needs at least 7 to 8 hours. But sleep deprivation can occur under various circumstances. It differs from a disorder when you have to make the sacrifice to lose sleep. Insomnia, on the other hand, is a sleep disorder that's defined by the inability to sleep when you made attempts over and over again. Naturally, sleep deprivation can come up as an effect of this. But it is interesting to see here what started as stress over life problems developed into sleep deprivation and insomnia. At points, the effects of the sleep deprivation may have influenced insomnia even further, so the two can be tied together in various ways. It can also be linked to influencing other disorders like sleep apnea or restless legs. There are different types and stages of sleep deprivation. A big factor of this is going to be the cause and the length of time you've gone without sleep. Today's report will be an example of acute sleep deprivation developed into long-term insomnia. Chronic sleep deprivation occurs when you're only getting so many hours a night. Generally, after a day with no sleep, you can expect a big damper on your mood and overall performance in most areas. But while you're irritable, you'll most likely still be able to function. It's when you start getting upwards of past 2 or 3 days is when things will start getting messy. Your cognitive performance is most likely going to suffer drastically. You're most likely going to be slow and prone to mistakes. You might experience things like anxiety or depersonalization, and your stress levels are most likely going to be higher than normal. After so long, delusions will start popping up, and your order of mind will start to fall apart. I think we can very well see that here once she claims having stayed up for a week straight. Because of this, it is hard to say how accurate everything is that follows. Things may have slipped her mind, and she doesn't know she mentions anything going on with her to anyone. But with the way she describes things, I would find it hard to believe no one noticed her change of state, especially if this went on for 5 weeks. Then again, we don't know her situation like that, where she's from and all that. Could be she lived alone, who knows really. More fine details would be nice here, but we'll have to work with what we got. So, looking at what the world record is for the longest time stayed awake, it stands just under 19 days by Maureen Weston. There have been other claims of people having stayed up longer though, mainly due to a condition they have. There are some rare examples of extreme insomnia, which could have been what this person went through. I won't go into each one here, but the most common example is probably one called fatal insomnia, which is genetic, where you can't go past stage 1 of REM. But even with the extreme conditions, and people having claimed up being up for months, some even years long, they're most likely getting at least a little bit of sleep, even if it's only like 30 minutes or an hour. So this very well could have been one of those cases. But either way, staying up for long periods of time like this is going to have major consequences and risk, besides ending up in a psychotic-like mess. Things that can happen include a weakened immune system, you increase the chances of developing diabetes because of imbalanced glucose, your blood pressure can go up, you can increase the chances of gaining weight, your sex drive will most likely go down due to hormonal imbalances, your balance in general and getting around can be off. There's some studies showing it can increase the risk of pain, then it can increase the risk of developing a mental health disorder, which may have happened here within this report. Sleep deprivation is no joke, and from a psychoanalytic point of view, it really does fit in with what you may find with a delirium through stem psychosis or something like a dissociative manic state. But we're going to end it there for today. I'm happy we finally covered this. If you guys want to see more on sleep deprivation or anything at all, let me know down below and we can do that. Make sure to share the channel. We're close to 22K, where we'll drop another story time. Also to make sure to check out the Patreon, the Discord, and the socials. Besides that, it's been someone that's someone, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.